So it's 5 o'clock in China, time to close down. The networking facilities will be open until Sunday, but this will be our last keynote address for this time. We will make a short wrap up, 20-30 minutes. I'm very pleased to have two of my colleagues, two very esteemed colleagues here, Patrick Richards. Patrick, some of you may have seen that, prepared this with 5 DMOs during our summit, and that was prepared in a very, very professional way. I said in my introduction of Patrick when he did that Patrick is a senior executive with a ton of experience, and not only a ton of experience, he is the best combination of new technologies and drawing on past experiences. Patrick has become a person we at BUZZ turn to if we want to discuss strategic ideas. So I'm very happy to welcome Patrick. And Professor Wolfgang Alt. Wolfgang is one of the leading experts on China outbound. He has been active, very active throughout our summit, so I'm happy to welcome Wolfgang. We should have had a third person, Taleb. Rifai should have been here as well. Something probably went wrong in the mail going forth and back, so he will most likely not be able to join us. Before we start with our wrap-up, I would like to give a few numbers, a few info on the summit. We had 1,160 participants, which in these times I think is pretty good. The main purpose, as I said in the introduction, was not keynotes. The main purpose was reach out, build networks, communicate, and when that time comes, prepare for business. We cannot tell how many businesses have been initiated, probably not too many in these times, but I had a couple of calls from our tech team warning me that we were getting to the limit of the server capacity, meaning there was a lot of communication in writing and through direct talks taking place. So that seems to have been worked. That seems to have worked pretty well. To our audience, you are most welcome to reach out and give us your points. What should we change for the next time? What should we make different? Anything which worked good, anything which didn't work so well. Please reach out and help us prepare for the next session. So, Wolfgang, would you perhaps want to start and tell us what are your important takeaways from our summit here? Wolfgang, you need to unmute yourself, please.
I am, yes. So, sorry. So, yes. So, Jan, thank you for having me again for the final wrap-up of this long week of the China Summit, and congratulations to everybody at BUZZ.travel, the visible people like yourself, but also the invisible people doing all the technology coming through and being stable. And so I think it has been really very successful. And I think, well, from all the discussions and all the presentations, everybody agrees that the Chinese outbound tourism market will soon be again coming back and will be the biggest market in the world again. Of course, it depends on a number of questions. If this will be already by the beginning of next year, or for the Chinese New Year in February, or when this new wave will come. But I think basically everybody has been saying, yes, of course, the Chinese will not stop to travel internationally. Maybe a little bit more cautious than before, but that will happen. And also, I think everybody has agreed that we have to, especially in Europe, we have to get our act together and to better adapt our products and be more specific for different kind of customer groups. What are we offering, so that the level of satisfaction of our customers has to be increased. And this is, I think, the good thing we see. The key question I would think is what has come out of this summit very clearly is that we used to discuss over tourism in 2018, 2019. I think this discussion is over now. We have seen that this is just scratching the surface, the discussion we had, and it is much more important to see how can we develop a sustainable way of future tourism development. And if we want to do this, so we had already 1 out of 8 international travelers was a Chinese, and in a couple of years it might be 1 out of 5 international travelers will be a Chinese. So if we do not take the Chinese market with us, then there will be no sustainable global tourism development. And I think this is the key question. And a lot of the discussions are saying, we all should travel a bit less. We have been traveling so much, so how about we use less aircraft and so on. But the Chinese are saying, no, we just started. Why should we don't want to stop now? And we had this discussion years ago about automobiles, when we were telling the Chinese, no, don't get private cars. You know, you end up in traffic jams and your cities will be only for cars, not for people anymore. And the Chinese said, no, but you have cars. We also want to have cars. And so now this is the same kind of debate. So what I think, what we need to see is how can we include the Chinese outbound market into the way of having a more sustainable tourism development. And that means obviously offering them products which are more adapted to what they need, going out of this big groups of Chinese jumping out of a bus, taking a photo and jumping back in. And fortunately also, even before the virus, the majority of Chinese were no longer interested in this kind of tourism. And with the virus, I think from all the surveys, you can see that the Chinese are saying, I want to go more into nature. I want to be in places, new places, be less crowded places. I want to spend more time with my family. So all this goes into the right direction, but we will have to support this, and we will have to have the right offers. And of course, that means we need knowledge. I think Taleb, who is not here with us today, he said in the opening statement that there is a need simply of more knowledge about the market. And I think this is certainly the key. And the other one, Jan already talked about technology. So of course, digitalization and big data can also help you to offer better and even personalized service to the Chinese. So that would be my opening statement. And I'm of course interested to hear what Patrick has to say.
Patrick, do you want to comment on that? You are an expert on India. I mean, that is another big market which will develop. And if we have two big markets developing,
well, thank you.
How do you see that?
Thank you, Jan, and thank you, Wolfgang. And I want to add my own congratulations to BUZZ, and echoing what Wolfgang has just said. You know, I think the first objective of any conference is seek first to understand. You know, if you really want to bring people together, and I think the Expo has really achieved that in a fantastic way, in embracing difference and making us understand a little bit better what divides us and what unites us, and how we can bring those things together. There's been a lot of talk about educating the tourists, coming back in a better way. You know, I think that from a European perspective, we've got to think how we do get our act together, which echoes what Wolfgang has just said. On my session, Germany, you know, outlined their own pain, that there's 16 different states with 16 different sets of regulation. That is echoed throughout Europe. In the UK, English people can't go into Wales at the moment. So there's a lot of fragmentation that Europe needs to get together. You know, in welcoming back Asian and Chinese tourists. So there is no doubt the Chinese market will come back. There is no doubt that travel will come back. The two questions are when and how. There's been a lot of talk, I think, about reviving destinations from a holistic standpoint. I feel that more of this is intellectual talk than practical talk, and I'm really interested to see how the destinations can promote that. You came up with a very good line, Wolfgang, which was likening the Chinese to the ketchup bottle. You know, that you tap it once and nothing happens, you tap it twice and then you tap it the third time and bush. Now, you know, is Europe really going to be ready for that? And will that destination recreation be ready for when the rebound comes? Because we all want the rebound to come, both from an Asian perspective and from a European perspective. But it's stimulating it, and it's managing it properly. And another area that I'd really go into is to do with education. I think the trade plays a really important part. You know, if you want to educate the Chinese tourists, maybe we need to start with educating ourselves and educating the trade, so that we can get the message across correctly. And I think there is a skills gap throughout the European and the Asian trade, which needs to be bridged. And you know, you'll see on a lot of NTO websites, for example, you know, here are our trade professional tools, but they're just kind of throwing stuff out there. Actually, in modern ed tech, and you talked about technology a little bit, Jan. How does travel learn from modern educational technology to make these things interactive, so we can actually get direct feedback on the tools that we're giving out? Do the Asian trade like them? Are they engaging with them? What's their opinions? So all of these things are areas, in my view, that we should be focusing on in order to make sure that when that rebound does come, we're prepared and we can bring it back in a way that is palatable for all.
Who should reach out? Who should start to prepare, Patrick? Because it is all, I mean, it's easy to say.
Yeah.
How do we get it done? Who's responsible for getting it done?
I think it's, you know, I think tourism needs leadership, and that leadership, for me, the old saying of "think global, act local" has never been more relevant. And through our structures, which in my view need to be public-private partnerships, obviously the public sector needs to be involved to corral everybody and give it the authentication and bring it into legislation. But the private sector will be key in the implementation part, in taking the tools, running with them, and too often those two things haven't been in harmony. They've gone in opposite directions.
Yes.
So you know, the more work we can do to bring them to bring them into focus, the better, in my view.
Yes. So this is, I would fully agree to that. And so we have actually brought together a program we call Advantage Tourism, where we try exactly to talk to governments, regional, national, and say, okay, we can help you with this private-public partnership development. And as Jan has been saying, what is a practical thing to do? And I think one thing clearly we can see that, and this is something Kate John, for instance, said in his presentation, that we don't offer enough for the Chinese tourists because our knowledge in the trade is so limited. So China, for instance, China is the third biggest Christian country in the world. Wow. In terms of believers. And most of these Christians are young urban professionals, so people with money to travel. So there are lots of South Koreans, for instance, as this was Kate John was mentioning this, who go on the Camino de Santiago, the St. Jacob's Way in northern Spain, which is a way of finding yourself, of a spiritual experience. And these guys are very well prepared for international travelers, and lots of South Koreans go there. But nobody in Spain ever offered this to the Chinese customers. Even so, I'm sure there is a market for that, because people think, oh, we know China. Oh, China, these are Confucianists. We know that. What? There are also Christians in China? We never heard about that. So this is simply to know the market better and what demands are there. Or to give another example I've been using before, there are 40 million kids in China learning how to play the piano. Half of the world of people learning to play the piano. So if you have any in Europe, everybody, you will have some composer who was born there or lived there, or you have a music school. So offer things for these kids. They can come to Europe and learn better to play the piano, or meet some people, or go to the Beethoven house or the Mozarteum, whatever. So all these, there are so many different topics where people in China are interested in, and where fortunately these niche markets each time are millions of people in China interested. But we are still very much, I think, having this old image of mass tourism, and of the little knowledge we know about China. Simply the differences between the people in the north who want to have sunshine and the people in the south who have enough sunshine at home. These simple things, from my experience, if I talk to people and ask them, okay, where are your customers from, your visitors from? Oh, from China. Okay, where in China? North, south, east, west? We don't know. So this is everybody knows the difference between the Norwegian and the Portuguese. But this is something which I think, yes, knowledge is a key point, and technology can help with this. And then, so with this over-tourism debate, I mean, already we have been saying this in 2019. It is not, let's say, Britain. Britain is not full of Chinese tourists. London is full of Chinese tourists, and maybe to a lesser degree, Edinburgh. But if you mentioned Wales, how many Chinese tourists go to Wales, to go to Cardiff? Nice city. Almost nobody. So it is just, as long as you don't tell the Chinese what they could do there, and you offer something specific for the interest of Chinese people, then they don't go there. So this is I think what we have to prepare now, and what can be done, and where we can be much more attractive again to the Chinese, and have them more evenly spread over time and over space in Europe.
So there's a lot of education to do, and DMOs will play a big role in that. The private sector, new technology. Patrick, you're an expert, as I said in my introduction, on the old experience and combining that with technology. We learned throughout the summit that China is light years ahead of Europe in terms of travel technology. How do you see that development coming in Europe? Will we reach the same stage?
I think it's absolutely plays to what we've just been talking about, and I'll give a couple of examples. Two of the NTOs, to your 40 million piano players, Wolfgang. Two of the NTOs have been doing exactly that. So Germany is presenting the anniversary of Beethoven, and Poland is presenting the anniversary of Schubert. Now, both of these were great heroes in my household, so this resonates well with me, and I'm sure it resonates well with those 40 million piano-playing families in China, who are probably going to be more on the affluent side if they can afford a piano, frankly. So we'll be more in a traveling demographic. So the NTOs are beginning to do the right thing by targeting these niches, and I think that works very well. But are other structures in place? So, you know, if there is going to be a boom in customization, which also came out through the whole conference, do we have the structures and the technologies in place to be able to do that? So I would, for example, forecast that there will be a real boom in trip building technology. And we're beginning to see the trip builders who are able to mass customize some of their offerings coming to the fore. And I think that will really play through a lot of the industry to be able to facilitate that mass customization, that targeting of different niches. You know, on another side, some of this is just really implementing very old technology. Lucas in our session talked about some of the guys in the rural parts of the Czech Republic who don't want QR codes, you know, who can't accept the ways that the Chinese pay. We all know that the you know, part of the area where the Chinese are way ahead is in online payments, and you know, that education and that technology has to be able to be harmonized through the destination to the market, back to the destination, if we're going to be able to make progress.
Wolfgang, do you want to comment?
Yeah, so this is sure, and there are, I think there are companies, of course, helping people with accepting this mobile payment things, and I would see that this is something which is, we are behind, but we are catching up. And also I see that in Germany, more people now actually use smartphones to pay than credit cards. So there was a big reluctance in Germany, still is again, to use credit cards. But so I think we are behind. Yes, Jan is right, but we are catching up. So one little comment on the piano players and the Beethoven year. Yes, you're right. Of course, we're looking at Beethoven this year, but the difference is, and this is what you have to understand about the Chinese market. In China, it is not adults playing the piano. It is kids, first generation. The adults were too busy to earn the money to buy the piano and to have a big enough house to have a room for the piano. So that is exactly the difference. If you want to attract Europeans or Americans to say, come because of Beethoven, you talk to adults who have been, like you said, growing up with music. In China, this is something which started just 10 years ago. And it is on, so you have to offer programs and which are based on the interests of 10-year-olds and not on the interest of 50-year-olds. So, and this is something which I think the German National Tourism Board has not done that extensively in China to make this differentiation. And this is exactly, I think, the difference between success and no success in China, that you understand this very clearly, that this is something is prestigious, that my kid learns to play the piano, but it's not the parents, they don't know how to play the piano.
Well, that's a great point. If I can put that question to you for clarification. So when we did the work, a lot of the work, Jan, you mentioned about India, we were looking at who influences the travel choice. And clearly, actually, it was the 45 plus demographic who had the money to be able to spend. But it was often the 20-something demographic who were influencing on the choice. In other words, the kid was saying to the parent, hey, dad, hey, mum, why don't we go here? Now, when I was 17 or 15 or whatever it was, I can definitely say that I would not have influenced my parents' holiday choice. That was the way it worked. But move on a generation, you know, my daughter is a huge K-pop fan, for example. So she's always badgering me, when are we going to Korea? When are we going to Korea? When are we going to Korea? So I would, you know, is it, Wolfgang, that you're saying that there needs to be that synergy between both targeting the influencers who may not have the spending power, who would be the kids, plus the parents who have the money to actually, you know, hand the cash over?
Yes, that is exactly so. And you can see one thing you have in China is 3 generations traveling together, where the middle generation, the 40-year-olds or 35-year-olds, they invite their own parents who brought them through university and sometimes sacrificing their own consumption so that the kids can get a good job. And now the kids have a good job and money, and they invite, as a way to say thank you, their parents who might not speak any language and would be afraid to go by themselves. but they also take the kid, of course, and all these maybe 6 adults will do things which are for the kid. They will go to theme parks and Disneyland and so on. So it will all be, and also the kid has to learn something. And it depends. You have, for instance, on the other hand, you have also a way that you find mostly then daughters going with their parents or their father to Moscow. So because they say to their parents, okay, I want to give you as a present a trip where you want to go. And some of these guys say, okay, when I was a kid, the only thing I learned about foreign countries in school was about Lenin. So I want to go and see the Lenin Mausoleum on the Red Square in Moscow. And in that case, it's the old folks deciding where to go. But certainly you have a lot of young people from affluent families traveling with daddy's credit card and doing all these shopping sprees. Unfortunately, it looks like no longer in England from last year. If the VAT refund scheme is really cancelled, which is a really stupid idea. I'm sorry to say so, so about another government, but I think you will agree.
I'm not the government.
No, but I know. But ETOA is certainly saying that, I'm sure, as many other people are. No, but so this is, so clearly you have this groups of 3 or 4 21, 22-year-old girls traveling together to Europe and going from one boutique to the next and buying lots of stuff. So it is, but this is exactly the point. This is what you have to know, who is influencing the decisions. And also, I think one point which has been not discussed a lot is that not all tourism is leisure tourism. So we will have less business trips because people are more used to Zoom now as before, but still there's a lot of investment going on from Chinese companies, and they will still regularly come here. You will have more expats in the future. You have already lots of students here. So this other forms of travel, and then so what are you offering to the parents coming to visit the kid who is at a university in Europe? So this is also a market which I think has not much been looked into, but of course offers a lot of opportunities where the parents will arrive in, I don't know, Leeds, where the kid is studying, and say, okay, now show us the UK. And then depending on what information has been given to the Chinese student studying in Leeds University, then they will travel with them. So this is another market. You said think global, act local. So in most places in Europe, you have a Chinese community in your bigger cities, and they are very much ignored by the travel trade until now.
Thank you. We are slowly coming to an end. Time passes away with good people. I think we in Europe perhaps need to think that or consider that in China you have 3 times as many people as you do in the EU, and we need to consider all the various segments. It is not, as Wolfgang said, not China. There are a lot of countries, if you want, or a lot of segments in China. Thank you to Patrick. Thank you to Wolfgang. Thank you to the participants in our summit. Thank you to all the speakers. And last but not least, thank you to our team, as Patrick and Wolfgang said, behind the scenes. They have been doing a very great job, and some have had very little sleep during the last couple of days. Now it's time to have a beer and go to bed and sleep out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.